The ship shook violently as it entered the atmosphere of the unknown planet. Dr. Jin-Ta gripped his seat, knuckles white with tension. Warning lights flashed red across the control panel. The research vessel's engines screamed in protest as they overheated. "Computer, status report," Jin called out, trying to keep his voice steady. "Hull integrity at 40%. Landing systems damage. Crash imminent." The computer responded in its flat voice. Jin had been mapping unexplored sectors when an asteroid field appeared without warning. Despite his best piloting efforts, several large rocks had struck the ship. Now he was falling toward an uncharted world with little control. Through the viewport, he saw a vast green landscape rushing up to meet him. Jin activated the emergency landing protocols and braced for impact. The ship hit the ground with a deafening crash, skidding through dense foliage before coming to a stop. Silence followed. Jin blinked, surprised to find himself alive. A thin trickle of blood ran down his forehead, but otherwise he seemed unharmed. The ship's interior was dark except for a few emergency lights. "Computer, damage assessment," Jin said, unbuckling his safety harness. "Life support functional. Communications offline. Emergency beacon damage. Hull breached in cargo section." Jin's heart sank. Without the emergency beacon, the chances of rescue dropped dramatically. The research institute might send someone when he failed to report in, but that could take months. He gathered essential supplies into a backpack: water purifier, food rations, medical kit, and portable scanner. The scanner was the most valuable tool, able to analyze materials and detect life forms. Jin also took his personal tablet, which contained his research notes and translation software. Forcing open the main hatch, Jin stepped onto the alien soil. The air was surprisingly easy to breathe, rich with oxygen and sweet-smelling. 2 suns hung in a pale purple sky. Around him stretched a forest of tall plants with silver-blue leaves that seemed to shimmer in the dual sunlight. Jin activated his scanner and checked the readings. Breathable atmosphere. No detected toxins. Temperature suitable for human life. He muttered to himself, recording his observations. Lucky break there, at least. The ship had carved a long path through the vegetation. Looking back at the wreckage, Jin winced. The once sleek research vessel was crushed beyond repair. He would need help to leave this place. Jin made a small camp near the ship. He tried to repair the emergency beacon, but essential components were beyond saving. As night fell, strange sounds echoed through the forest. Glowing insects drifted through the air like floating stars. For 3 days, Jin explored the area around his crash site. He discovered many interesting plants and small animals, all unfamiliar to science. The scanner indicated most were safe, though some plants contained mild toxins. He carefully documented everything, old scientific habits, keeping him focused despite his situation. On the 4th day, Jin ventured farther from the ship. The terrain sloped upward, and Jin decided to climb to higher ground for a better view of the landscape. The climb was difficult in the planet's slightly higher gravity, but the view proved worth the effort. In the distance, he spotted what appeared to be structures, simple buildings arranged in a circular pattern. Jin adjusted his scanner, zooming in on the settlement. The readings showed multiple life forms, larger than the small creatures he had encountered so far. "Intelligent life," Jin whispered, excitement momentarily overriding his concern. This was a major discovery. If he could make contact, perhaps they might help him. Jin started down the hill toward the settlement, but stopped when his scanner beeped a warning. Something was moving through the forest around him. Several large life forms approached from different directions, moving with purpose. Jin froze, unsure whether to run or hold his ground. Before he could decide, they emerged from the trees. 7 tall figures surrounded him in a perfect circle. Their skin was a deep blue color with faint patterns that seemed to shift in the sunlight. They stood nearly 2 meters tall, with strong, athletic builds. Each carried weapons, spears and bows that looked primitive but well crafted. Most surprisingly, They appeared female, with distinctly feminine features despite their alien appearance. Their long hair ranged in color from silver to deep purple, some decorated with beads and feathers. Their eyes were large and entirely black, without visible pupils. Jin slowly raised his hands to show he carried no weapons. "Hello," he said clearly. "I come in peace." The tallest of the group stepped forward. She wore more elaborate decorations, suggesting higher status. Her silver hair was braided with small metal objects that clinked softly as she moved. She spoke, her voice melodic, but the words incomprehensible to Jin. He reached slowly for his tablet, hoping the translation software might help. The movement caused instant reaction. All 7 warriors raised their weapons. Jin froze again. "Translation," he said carefully, pointing to the tablet. "To help us talk." The leader watched him with those unsettling black eyes. After a moment, she nodded once. Jin activated the translation program and let it record their speech. The software would need time to analyze the language patterns before it could translate. The leader spoke again, gesturing at Jin and then toward the direction of their settlement. The meaning seemed clear enough. He was to go with them. "I understand," Jin said, nodding. "I'll come peacefully." As they formed a circle around him and began marching through the forest, Jin noticed small details about the warriors. Their weapons and clothes showed signs of skilled craftsmanship. They moved with practiced coordination that suggested military training. This was no primitive tribe, despite their seemingly simple technology. Jin felt a sharp sting in his neck. His hand reached up and found a small dart. His vision blurred immediately. "Standard. Precaution," he mumbled, understanding their caution with an unknown being. The last thing Jin saw before losing consciousness was the leader's face, watching him with what might have been curiosity. Jin opened his eyes to find himself lying on a soft mat inside a large wooden structure. Sunlight filtered through gaps in the walls, creating patterns on the dirt floor. His head pounded, and his mouth felt dry. The dart's effects lingered in his system. He tried to sit up, discovering his hands were bound with soft but strong vines. The room contained simple furniture, a low table, storage containers made from woven fibers, and several mats like the one he lay on. A movement caught Jin's eye. One of the blue-skinned warriors sat cross-legged near the doorway, watching him. She wore less elaborate clothing than the leader, but carried a short blade at her waist. "Water?" Jin asked, his voice raspy. The guard studied him for a moment, then reached for a clay container. She approached cautiously and held it to his lips. Jin drank gratefully. "Thank you," he said. The guard did not respond, her black eyes revealing nothing. The door covering moved aside, and 3 figures entered. Jin recognized the silver-haired leader from the forest. Beside her stood an elderly female with deep wrinkles crossing her blue skin. The third was taller than the others, with muscles that spoke of great strength. The leader spoke sharply to the guard, who untied Jin's hands and backed away. "I am Jin Tai," he said slowly, pointing to himself. "Jin." The leader touched her chest. "Mina." She gestured to the elderly female. "Elder Su." Then to the muscular one. "Ray." Jin's tablet lay on the table. He pointed to it. "May I?" Mina nodded once. Jin retrieved the device and checked the translation program. It had collected enough data to attempt basic communication. He spoke into it, and after a moment, the tablet produced sounds in their language. "I come from far away. My ship crashed. I mean no harm." The 3 females exchanged glances. Elder Su stepped forward, speaking slowly. The tablet translated her words with many gaps. "You are, not first, from stars. Others came, brought death." Jin understood their caution now. "I am alone, a researcher. I study new worlds and life." Mina moved closer, examining him with intense curiosity. She reached out and touched his hair, so different from their silver and purple shades. "Why you come here?" The tablet translated her question. Not by choice. My ship was damaged. I need help to return home. Ray made a sound that might have been a laugh. She spoke rapidly, and the tablet struggled to keep up. No, return. You, stay, serve tribe, or die. Jin felt a chill despite the warm air. Serve how? Mina spoke again, more slowly. Our tribe faces many challenges. We need strong hands, new knowledge. You will work, prove your worth, or you will be sent to the dark lands. The tablet displayed a warning about uncertain translation for dark lands, but Jin gathered it was not somewhere he wanted to go. I can help, he said. I have knowledge about many things. Medicine, growing food, building. Elder Su's eyes narrowed. We test your words. For now, you live. Mina pointed to the guard by the door. Hana will watch you. Try to escape, she will hunt you. Hana straightened at the mention of her name. Her expression remained neutral, but Jin sensed her disapproval. After the leaders left, Hana motioned for Jin to follow her outside. The brightness momentarily blinded him. When his vision cleared, Jin gasped in surprise. The settlement was larger than he expected. At least 30 structures formed a circle around a central area. Blue-skinned females of various ages moved about, carrying water, preparing food, or working on crafts. Some stopped to stare at him, the first outsider they had seen in perhaps generations. Most striking was the complete absence of males. Jin saw females of all ages, from elders to what appeared to be teenagers and even small children, but not a single male of their species. Hana led him through the village, keeping him always in arm's reach. Jin observed everything with scientific interest, despite his predicament. The building showed skilled construction, using local wood and plant fibers. Tools and weapons displayed excellent craftsmanship. They stopped at a garden area where several females worked the soil. The plants looked similar to earth vegetables, but with striking purple and blue coloration. Jin noticed immediately that many plants appeared unhealthy, with withered leaves and small fruits. Bad grow, Hana said, using simple words without the tablet. Many seasons now. Jin kneeled to examine the soil. His scanner showed mineral deficiencies and an imbalance that would affect plant growth. This was something he could help with, a way to prove his value. I can make this better, he told Hana. Need certain materials. She seemed skeptical but led him to a storage area where he found primitive tools and containers. Jin gathered what he needed and returned to the garden. Using his scanner to identify mineral-rich soil from nearby, he demonstrated how to mix it with their existing soil to improve growth. At first, the gardeners watched with suspicion, but when Jin's scanner showed the improved mineral content, one young female named Duri ventured to try his method on a small section of plants. As they worked, Jin tried to learn more about their society. His questions about male tribe members were met with silence or changed subjects, but he gathered they faced more problems than failing crops. Their numbers seemed too small for a sustainable population, and he noticed signs of scarce resources. That evening, Jin was given a small shelter near the edge of the village. Hana remained outside, his constant shadow. He sat on the ground, watching as the tribe gathered around fire pits for their evening meal. Chief Mina approached, carrying a wooden bowl. She offered it to Jin without speaking. The food was a stew of unfamiliar plants and what might have been fish. His scanner confirmed it was safe to eat. Thank you, Jin said, taking a cautious taste. The flavor was surprisingly good, rich and savory. Mina sat across from him. Tomorrow you show more ways to help tribe, she said through the tablet. Prove your words true. I will, Jin promised. But I need to understand your people better to help effectively. Why are there no males among you? Mina's expression darkened. Males died. Many seasons passed. Disease that took only them. Jin's scientific mind raced with possibilities. A gender-specific plague. Genetic manipulation gone wrong. Your species cannot continue without males, he said carefully. We know, Minna replied, her voice heavy. Tribe grows smaller each season. Soon, none will remain. Jin understood then why his arrival might seem significant. An outsider with advanced knowledge might represent hope, however slim. I will help in any way I can, he said, but I need to learn more about what happened. Minna stood abruptly. Some knowledge is forbidden. Some paths not to be walked again. She gestured toward Hannah. She will show you our ways. Learn them well. As Minna walked away, Jin caught Hannah watching him. Her expression remained guarded, but he sensed curiosity beneath her stern exterior. Rest now, Hannah said simply. Tomorrow comes work. Jin nodded, knowing he faced a delicate situation. These people needed help, but they also feared what his help might bring. Somehow, he needed to earn their trust while finding a way home, if such a thing was even possible. Weeks passed as Jin settled into life with the tribe. Each morning, he joined the work groups under Hannah's watchful eye. His first major contribution came when he improved their farming methods. Using his scientific knowledge, he taught them to rotate crops and create natural fertilizers from plant waste. The gardens began to show better growth, with stronger plants and larger harvests. Jin worked beside Duri most days. The young gardener eagerly adopted his suggestions and showed him their traditional planting songs. Jin learned that music played an important role in their culture, with different songs for each task and season. Song helps plants grow strong, Duri explained as they worked the soil. Sound carries life energy. Hannah remained skeptical, but could not deny the results of Jin's methods. She watched from nearby, her hand never far from her weapon. One morning, a small child named Lena fell ill with a fever. The tribe's healer, an elderly female named Hai, used traditional herbs with little effect. When the child's condition worsened, Jin offered his medical kit. I can help, he told Chief Minna. My medicine might save her. After hesitation, Minna allowed him to examine the child. Jin's scanner identified a simple bacterial infection. He administered antibiotics from his kit and showed Ta how to make a cooling wrap for the fever. By evening, Lena's fever broke. The next day, she sat up and asked for food. The tribe members watched in amazement. You have good hands, Elder Su told Jin that night at the communal fire. Good heart maybe too. Jin earned more freedom after saving Lena. Hannah no longer followed his every step, though she remained assigned to watch him. During their time together, Jin learned bits of their language and history. Why does your tribe fear technology? He asked Hannah one day as they collected water from a stream. Hannah's expression grew serious. Long ago, our people touched the stars, built great things. Then came the sickness. Many believe it was punishment for reaching too far. Jin considered this, the sickness that took the males. Hannah nodded. First came wonders, then came death. The elders say we must live simply or the sickness will return. As Jin gained trust, he was allowed to explore more of the village. During a heavy rainstorm, the ground near one dwelling collapsed, revealing metal beneath the soil. Jin helped the women repair the damage, but noted the strange material. Later, he returned alone. Digging carefully, he uncovered a panel with faded symbols that resembled writing. His scanner detected energy patterns beneath, dormant but present. This settlement was built atop ruins of something far more advanced. Jin was so focused on his discovery that he didn't hear Hannah approach. Forbidden, she said sharply, pulling him away from the hole. You must not touch. What is it? Jin asked, unable to contain his curiosity. Old magic, Hannah replied. From before. It brings death. Jin realized then that the tribe's simple existence was a choice, not their original state. These people were descendants of an advanced civilization who had abandoned technology after disaster struck. I only want to understand, Jin said gently. Hannah's stern expression softened slightly. Understanding can be dangerous. That evening, Elder Su sought Jin out. Hannah tells me you found old things, she said, her voice low. You must not speak of this to others. Why fear knowledge of your past? Jin asked. Elder Su sighed, the sound carrying centuries of loss. When I was small, my grandmother told stories of before. Our people once built cities that touched clouds, machines that could think. We changed our world as we wished. She paused, eyes distant with memory. Then we changed ourselves. Changed how? Jin asked. The old ones altered life itself, made new creatures, changed their own bodies. Elder Su's voice grew heavy. They created the sickness too, though not by choice. It spread quickly, taking all males first, then stopping, as if it had fulfilled its purpose. Jin thought of the plague's unusual pattern, targeting only males of their species. It suggested genetic engineering gone wrong, or perhaps a targeted bioweapon. The survivors abandoned the old ways, Elder Su continued, destroyed much knowledge. What remains is buried and forbidden. Jin understood their fear better now, but also saw the tragedy. Without their technology, they faced slow extinction. Without males, their species had no future. Elder Su, Jin said carefully, what if some technology could help without bringing harm? The sickness came from specific actions, not all knowledge. The old woman studied him. This is why Mina watches you closely. Your ideas are like seeds. They may grow into help or harm. Over the following days, Jin found himself included in more tribal activities. He learned their dances during an evening celebration, moving awkwardly among the graceful blue figures. The tribe laughed at his attempts, but without cruelty. Hana surprised him by offering guidance. Like this, she said, demonstrating a step. For the first time, Jin saw her smile. Later, Hana showed Jin how to make their traditional weapons. Her fingers moved with practiced skill as she crafted a small knife from stone and wood. You are a good teacher, Jin told her. You are a strange student, she replied, but her tone held warmth. Working together created understanding between them. Jin learned that Hana had lost her mother to predators in the forest 3 seasons ago. As the tribe's strongest warrior, she felt responsible for protecting what remained of their people. Why help us? Hana asked him one evening as they watched the dual sunset. You could try to leave. Jin considered his answer carefully. Scientists seek knowledge. Your people face challenges I might help solve. And, he paused, I have nowhere else to go for now. Hana nodded slowly. Perhaps stars sent you for a reason. Jin thought about the technology buried beneath their feet. If he could understand it without violating their taboos, perhaps he could find answers, both for his return home and for their survival. That night, Jin dreamed of blue children playing among the stars, a future that might never come unless something changed. He awoke with renewed determination to bridge the gap between his science and their traditions, finding a path forward that honored both. The morning began like any other. Jin helped with the daily garden work, while Hana practiced combat movements with younger warriors. The routine was broken by a sharp call from the village lookout. Riders coming. Northern tribe approaches. Jin watched as the village erupted into organized chaos. Women grabbed weapons while others hurried children toward central buildings. Chief Mina emerged from her dwelling, face grim with purpose. What happens? Jin asked Hana as she rushed past him. Forest tribe comes, she said tersely, checking her weapons. They want our land, our food. They attacked twice before. Jin followed as Hana joined other warriors gathering around Chief Mina. From their worried expressions, he understood this was serious. How many? Mina asked the lookout. 20 riders. More follow on foot. Many weapons. Mina's jaw tightened. They never brought so many before. They grow desperate. Elder Su spoke from beside her. Their territory dies. The great river changed course last season. Their hunting grounds dry up. Not our problem, Ray growled, tightening the straps on her arm guards. They die or we die. That is nature. Jin listened with growing concern. How many warriors do we have? 15 strong fighters, Hana answered. Others can fight, but not well. The math was simple and devastating. They were outnumbered. We should talk to them, Jin suggested. Find a peaceful solution. Several warriors laughed bitterly. Mina shook her head. We tried words before. They only understand strength. She turned to her warriors. Prepare for battle. We defend our home. As the warriors dispersed, Jin caught Hana's arm. This is wrong. Both tribes will suffer greatly. Hana's expression softened briefly. I know, but we see no other path. Jin remembered the technology hidden beneath the village. If he could access it, perhaps he could find a solution that didn't require bloodshed. While the tribe prepared defenses, Jin slipped away to the spot where he had discovered the metal panel. The rain had washed away more soil, revealing a larger section. His scanner detected stronger energy readings now. Jin brushed away dirt, finding what appeared to be a control interface. Ancient symbols glowed faintly at his touch. What are you doing? Jin turned to find Duri watching him with wide eyes. Trying to help, Jin answered honestly. The old technology might save lives today. Duri looked scared. Forbidden. Elder Su says it brings death. Sometimes fear of the past prevents us from seeing new possibilities, Jin said gently. Will you help me, or will you tell the others? The young gardener hesitated, then knelt beside him. What must I do? Jin smiled. Hold my scanner. Tell me if anyone comes. Working quickly, Jin studied the panel. His tablet translated some symbols. Defense, shield, protection. This might be part of an old security system. He carefully pressed what appeared to be an activation sequence. Nothing happened. Jin tried again, adjusting his approach. Still nothing. The system needed power. Time runs short, Duri whispered urgently. I hear the warning drums. They approach our borders. Jin thought quickly. His ship's emergency power cells might work. He turned to Duri. Run to my shelter. Bring the silver box under my sleeping mat. Hurry. As Duri raced away, Jin heard shouts from the village edge. The attack had begun. In the distance, riders on large lizard-like creatures charged toward the village. They were tall blue females like Mina's tribe, but wore different markings and carried heavier weapons. Jin worked frantically to expose more of the control panel while waiting for Duri. He heard the clash of weapons and cries of pain. The battle had started. Duri returned, breathless, carrying the power cell. Jin connected it to the ancient system, praying his understanding was correct. The panel glowed brighter, symbols shifting in patterns. What does it do? Duri asked. I hope it creates a protective barrier, Jin replied, making final adjustments. A shield to separate the tribes without harming either. Jin pressed what he believed was the activation sequence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a low hum vibrated through the ground. The air rippled like heat waves rising from hot stone. A translucent barrier rose from the ground in a wide circle around the village. It shimmered with blue-white energy, creating a wall between Mina's warriors and the attacking tribe. Both sides stopped fighting, staring in confusion at the unexpected development. Jin rushed toward the front lines, Duri following close behind. Chief Mina stood at the barrier's edge, her weapon raised. On the other side, a tall warrior with red-streaked hair shouted angrily, striking the shield with her spear. The energy rippled but held firm. What have you done? Mina demanded when she saw Jin approach. Created a chance for peace, Jin answered. This barrier won't harm anyone, but it will give time for talking instead of fighting. Mina's eyes flashed with anger. You used forbidden knowledge, broke our most sacred law. To save lives, Jin countered. Look around you. Your warriors bleed. Theirs too. For what? Land can be shared, knowledge exchanged. Together you might solve the problems neither can solve alone. Elder Su approached slowly, leaning on her walking stick. She studied the energy barrier with ancient eyes. This is from before, she whispered. The shield of peace, Stories told of it, but none believed. The leader of the forest tribe called out from beyond the barrier. "What magic is this? Face us in fair battle." Jin stepped forward. "No magic. Old science made by your ancestors and theirs. They were one people once." This statement caused murmurs among both tribes. Elder Su nodded slowly. "He speaks truth. Long ago, before the sickness, all blue people lived as one." Mina looked torn between tribal tradition and the possibility of a new path. The technology brought disaster before. How can we trust it now? "Not all knowledge is dangerous," Jin said. "Your ancestors created wonders before the plague. This shield was made to protect, not harm." The forest tribe leader approached the barrier cautiously. "Our children hunger. Our land dies. We fight because we must survive." Jin saw the opening. "Chief Mina, you have knowledge of growing food in difficult conditions. They have hunting grounds and different resources. Together, both tribes might not just survive, but thrive." Mina studied the enemy leader through the shimmering barrier. Years of hostility stood between them, but also a shared heritage and common threats. "Lower your shield," Mina said to Jin. "I would speak with Chief Yuna face to face." "Are you certain?" Jin asked. Mina nodded. "Violence has solved nothing for generations. Perhaps it is time for a different path." Jin deactivated the barrier. The two chiefs approached each other cautiously, weapons lowered but ready. "We talk," Mina said simply. "Then decide." As the tribal leaders moved to neutral ground, Hannah appeared at Jin's side, a fresh cut on her arm. "What you did was dangerous," she said quietly. Jin nodded. "Sometimes we must risk everything to find a better way." Hannah's hand found his. "For someone not of our world, you understand much." Together, they watched as the first careful steps toward peace began between tribes who had forgotten they were once one people. 3 moons had passed since the day of the battle. Where there had once been 2 separate tribes, now one larger community worked together. In the central clearing between their joined villages, Jin watched as members of both tribes shared a meal together. Children who once would have been enemies now played games in the evening light. Chief Mina and Chief Yuma sat at the head of the gathering, their initial distrust slowly changing to cautious respect. The peace remained fragile, but it grew stronger each day. "You created this," Hannah said, sitting beside Jin on a fallen log. "Without your strange ideas, many would be dead now." Jin shook his head. "I only showed a different path. Your people chose to walk it." In the weeks following the battle, Jin had helped the tribes establish new systems for sharing resources. Forest tribe hunters brought meat and materials from their territory, while Mina's people taught them improved farming methods. Together, they had enough food for all. More importantly, Jin had carefully introduced them to small pieces of their ancestors' technology. With Elder Su's guidance, they uncovered systems designed to maintain the environment, machines that could clean water and restore soil. The old ones were not foolish. Elder Su had explained to the gathered tribes. They created both wonders and dangers. We must learn to take one without the other. Jin had been careful to focus only on technology that supported life rather than changing it. The genetic manipulation that had created the plague remained buried and untouched. "Look," Duri called, pointing skyward. The night lights dance. Above them, colorful waves of light flowed across the dark sky, similar to Earth's aurora, but in shades of purple and green. Jin had learned this phenomenon happened only a few times each year. The tribes believed it carried messages from ancestors. As everyone watched the lights, Jin felt a strange vibration from his pocket. He pulled out his emergency beacon, which he had continued trying to repair in his spare time. The screen flickered with life, displaying a message he never expected to see. Seljinan reciv rescue appro hing. Arrival. 3 days. Jin stared at the device, emotions conflicting within him. For months, returning home had been his goal. Now, faced with the reality, He felt unexpectedly torn. "What is it?" Hannah asked, noticing his expression. "My people," Jin said quietly. "They come in 3 days." The news spread quickly through the gathering. Some looked worried, fearing more strangers might bring new troubles. Others seemed curious about Jin's people. "Will you leave us?" Duri asked, her young face troubled. Jin didn't answer immediately. He had built something meaningful here. Relationships, trust, a place where he made a difference. On Earth, he had been just another researcher, one of many. Here, his knowledge had saved lives. "I must meet them," he finally said. "But what happens after is not yet decided." Later that night, Chief Minna called a council meeting. Representatives from both tribes gathered in the ceremonial hut, including Jin and Hannah. "Jin's Sky People approach," Minna began. "We must decide how to greet them." Chief Yuna leaned forward. "Will they bring weapons? Take our land as others once did?" "They are explorers and scientists, like me," Jin explained. "They seek knowledge, not conquest." Elder Sue tapped her staff on the ground. "Knowledge can be weapon too, as our history shows." Jin could not argue with her wisdom. "True, but my people have rules about interfering with other worlds. They will not settle here or take your resources without permission." Discussion continued late into the night. Jin described his homeworld and the methods of his people. He explained the concept of cultural exchange and the benefits it might bring. "Your people face challenges I cannot solve alone," Jin told them. "The male sickness that threatens your future might be understood by our scientists. Your lands could be fully restored with proper care." By dawn, they had reached agreement. The tribes would meet Jin's rescuers together, offering limited contact and exchange while maintaining their sovereignty. 3 days later, Jin stood with Hannah and the tribal leaders in the large clearing near his crashed ship. The rescue vessel descended slowly, much larger than Jin's research craft. It landed with precision, stirring up dust that glowed gold in the morning light. As the ship's hatch opened, Jin stepped forward alone. 4 humans emerged, 2 men and 2 women in standard Earth Alliance uniforms. Their expressions showed surprise at seeing Jin standing calmly beside blue-skinned aliens. "Dr. Jin Ta," the lead officer called. "We received your emergency signal. Are you well?" "I am," Jin replied, feeling strange speaking his native language after so long. "And I have much to tell you." The Earth team approached cautiously. Jin introduced them to the tribal leaders, who stood tall and proud despite their nervousness. "We offer friendship," Chief Minna said through Jin's translator, "and trade of knowledge." The Earth team seemed amazed at the peaceful first contact situation. Their commander explained they had expected to find Jin alone or not at all. Finding him integrated with a thriving alien culture was unprecedented. "We can leave immediately," the commander told Jin. "Your position at the Research Institute remains open." Jin looked at the faces around him, Hannah's especially. In her dark eyes, he saw a question she would never ask aloud. "I cannot leave yet," Jin said firmly. "These people face challenges I have promised to help solve. Their world holds knowledge our scientists should study, with proper permission." "You wish to stay?" the commander asked, surprised. Jin nodded. "I propose establishing a proper research station here. A small team to work with the tribes, sharing knowledge while respecting their autonomy." The Earth team exchanged glances, considering the unusual request. "It could be arranged," the commander said slowly, though approval would take time. Chief Minna stepped forward. "Until then, Jin remains with us. He has earned his place." That evening, as the Earth team returned to their ship to report back to headquarters, Jin and Hannah walked along the edge of the forest. Above them, the dual suns created a spectacular sunset. "You chose to stay," Hannah said simply. Jin smiled. "For now. There is much work to do." Hannah touched the carved wooden pendant she had made for him, now hanging around his neck. "The old stories say stars sometimes send gifts to those in need. Perhaps you are such a gift." Jin took her hand, blue skin against his brown. Or perhaps I found where I was meant to be all along. Together, they watched the stars appear, no longer distant worlds but points of connection in a universe full of new beginnings.